Alright, so I'm going to make a quick review and kind of a mini install tutorial on this Coolerworx 350Z, 370Z short throw shifter. So we got some instructions, pardon me stepping on them when they were in the car. I kind of explain things more for a mechanic than just a regular consumer. So for my mechanics, it says to twist the shift knob, and it's like I wouldn't even worry about all that, man. You just want to go ahead and disconnect the console retainer that holds the shift boot in, and go up underneath it. Go ahead and pull that 12. Pull the whole thing out. You don't need the spring. You don't need the guide collar for the shifter. You don't need any of those components. So go ahead and just go ahead and pull that whole unit out. Don't even waste your time with that. I've attempted to do this many times. You just end up goring up your shifter. You're going to be really sad because they put a lot of thread sealant on it from the factory. So essentially when you pop off that first cover, then it'll expose your 410 millimeters. Go ahead and pull those things out. There's your 12 millimeter. Go ahead and pull that out. You don't need it. Now, see how that collar guide, pull that out. Okay. So then you'll notice on the back of the transmission, I know it sounds crazy, but you're not going to need this entire unit. I've got one sitting on the ground right there. You also don't need your shift boot, okay, or your linkage dust cover, so to speak. 4 12 millimeters, 2 on the top, 2 on the side. Here's my tool selection. I run a 12 millimeter like that. Now, what I also did was I ran my 1/2-inch drive impact gun 14 millimeter socket. I went ahead and I dropped the transmission cross member. It'll make it a hell of a lot easier to put that transmission. You want to drop that transmission back so that you can access the 2 bolts on the top. So that's essentially why in the instructions it says to do so. So essentially your fork selector rod, shift rod should look like that. No dust cover. All right. So now you can see that this part of the linkage rod right here that connects to the actual transmission linkage, that it's got a 4 millimeter Allen head right there. You need to loosen that thing and back that thing up because you're going to go ahead and slide out and remove that shift linkage bar. The reason you're doing that is because you're going to go ahead and you're going to install it on its base plate like this. Over here, I'm almost certain, if I remember correctly, it's 4 3 millimeter bolts that hold this unit on, or it also may be a 4 millimeter. I can't remember, but essentially you're going to mount that to the base plate, and then you're going to insert your shift linkage rod from the bottom through the boot. Okay. Now, when you get it all installed, you want to go ahead and still leave that 4 millimeter Allen head loose. So you can see they've inserted the rod. The bolt is still loose. I can't remember if that's, I believe it's actually 4 millimeter. So that's 4 millimeter bolts, recessed, countersunk, that are going to mount that body of that shifter. All right. So then you can see the shifter installed. 4 10 millimeter bolts hold it and retain it. You'll see my unit, I'm running 5 millimeter Allen head because I want to make it pretty. So you can see up underneath there, the underside image, that there is no dust cover, there is nothing, okay? Now, when you're attempting to set up your shifter for the correct amount of play, what you do is you're going to put it into first or second gear, and you're going to make an adjustment over here. And essentially what you want this thing to do is you want this Allen head to touch that and then back off essentially a thread. Like a full thread's probably pretty good and pretty loose. 7 millimeter on the nut locks it. And I'm thinking those are also 3 millimeter. And that's essentially all you need to know. Now we're going to go over to the shifter. Let me get a flashlight. All right. So now this is more of my review on the shifter. Now, if you have a problem with your dust cover, which I may make a minor adjustment to mine, you can see that the exposed anodized red billet body and my dust cover is not quite centered. So you can make those adjustments via these 4 10 millimeter nuts. And you can kind of sit there and play with it. The first, second, fifth, sixth adjustments are right here. And now, so this is more of my review on the shifter itself and my contention about the quality, okay? So fitment, very precise, very nice, very clean. I like their finish on all their parts. I like their anodizing. It all looks good. Now what this shifter will remind you of is kind of like a newer ZL1, like a TR6060 transmission. It's super tight, super precise, but the throw isn't too short. It kind of doesn't remind you of S2000, you know what I mean? It's not like an AP1, it's more like a ZL1, something like that, to where you have an adequate amount of throw distance, and also too, shift fork selection is super precise. So you can speed shift, full throttle shift with this guy. So first gear, second, third, fourth. Hold on. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And then you can easily stick it in the reverse. So, and mind you, I have a dry box right here, so shift fork selection is not super perfect, but essentially what you get is you get a CD009 that will act like a T56, but a nice T56. So I'm pretty impressed with this unit. Let's reverse. You just gotta pull up on that collar right there, and I think it's a nice piece, man. Honestly, I think a lot of the guys that mess up their gearboxes with Z34s, I think that if they were to have this shifter, I almost don't think you can miss shift. I mean, you know, mind you, I have a dry box or whatever, and I'm sitting in the car. I don't have seats in the car, so I'm just essentially crouched in the car. But when you're sitting in the driver's seat, you got a fucking a wet gearbox. It's like, man, this thing is butter smooth. I've messed with these on a few other cars. This is the first one I've installed, but I've definitely seen them in the cars, because I work on Z34s and R35s all day. So I was always happy loading them on the dyno, and that's always kind of the breaking point of a shift selector, is like, how easy is it for me to ramp this car up and roll it up onto the dyno. So yeah, I like it. I think it's a cool piece and a worthwhile investment. Seems like $525 to $600 plus shipping is kind of the going range for these things if you can get a hold of one. So that's my review on the Coolerworx 370Z shifter.